right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to the Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti. It's the show that talks about nothing but tries to find the lessons in everything, and we have a good time doing it. Speaking of good times, I am currently stuck in traffic. I don't know where I am. I think I'm in Virginia somewhere. I can't be too sure. People are looking at me funny already. We haven't even gotten started yet. But that's where we're at right now. That's how my week's been going. That's how my week has been. I'm recording this episode early, obviously. I'm on the road. By the time you hear this, I'll have a full week ahead of me. I'm recording this on a Monday, just to give you a heads up. So this will post 6 days later in the LPDS universe timeline, the time-space continuum. But I wanted to get a road episode in, have some fun, try to break up the mundaneness. Is there a word? Is it mundaneness or mundanity? That's not a word. None of those are real words, I don't think. But the mundane nature of this drive. I'm on day 2 of the drive, and it's been boring, to say the least. I got my road dog Randy in the back sleeping. You can't see him because of the angle of the camera, and he's out cold right now, which is fine. It's best, because when we get close to a gas station or a rest stop or anything, he starts to go berserker because he wants to get out of the car. He's fed up already. Road trips are fun, but not by yourself. Not nearly as much by yourself. Especially when you got a dog, there's a lot of extra stuff to do. You got to do, everything takes extra time. I can't take him to the bathroom with me. That's disgusting. I don't want his paws getting pee-pee frag on them, or God knows what else is going on in there. Can't take him into the gas station really at all anyway, unless he was a service dog, and I'm not doing that. I'm not getting him service certified, because that's a farce. I just go online and do it. That's unethical in my opinion. There should be an actual training to be a service dog, and if that's the case, I would send him to the training. But I don't have a justification. I don't need service. I think people have been taking advantage of that, if we're speaking frankly here. So I'm not going to do that. So I have to, when I stop to get gas, I get gas. I take him out for a walk. He does his business, gets some exercise, some stretches in. He'll roll around the grass if it's nice grass. And then I put him back in the car. I turn the car on. Don't worry. He's got the AC blasting. I give him treats. I usually have the radio on for him so he can listen to some tunes so that he's not completely bored. And then I rush in to do my business. If I have to go to the bathroom or if I have to get food, it's usually that. Sometimes it's drive-through, but I don't necessarily like doing that as much, because you're not going to find good drive-through meals. I can get grilled chicken at Chick-fil-A, but if you're driving on a Sunday, you're not getting that. So I don't like doing that. Plus, again, Randy gets anxious. He's still dealing with his anxiety. We're getting better slowly but surely, but he does want to go and sniff around the people in the window. So I got to be mindful of that too. So I usually go to, a big rest stop like a Buc-ee's or a big Love's. Love's have some pretty good rest stops. They're not nearly as consistent as Buc-ee's, but they do have some big rest stops. So I'll go there. I'll run in. I'll do my business. I'll grab some snacks, and then I'm trying to get back out to the car to take care of the big man, and we can get back on the road, because each trek of this trip is 11 hours straight, no stops. So we're talking 12, 13 hours, 14 hours, depending on traffic and weather sometimes. The stops take 20 plus minutes each, depending on what you're doing. If I have to feed him, it takes longer. If it's a new area, he's got to sniff around for a bunch before he's comfortable doing his business. That's something I looked up a while ago, why dogs do that. I forgot the reason why. It's like maybe a safety thing. I don't know what it is, a comfortability issue. I forgot exactly. But it's mind-boggling to me that you have the ability to take a dumpy or a pee wherever you want. You can just go. You're outside. You can just go, and nobody's gonna say a word. You're not gonna get arrested. Nothing bad's gonna happen to you. And then somebody else is responsible for cleaning it up, which is awesome. And yet he still takes 15, 20 minutes to sniff around and get his bearings and get comfortable wherever he wants to drop trowel. So that takes time. So all that's being said, it's not nearly as fun doing it by yourself because you gotta account for all of that. And then when you get to the hotel, you gotta unload with the dog. And I don't bring a crate with me. I'll probably incriminate myself because I know a lot of hotels say when you leave your room you gotta have a crate or a kennel, they call it, for your pet. But I'm staying one night. He doesn't leave my side, so instead of leaving him in the room when I go out, so he's I don't want him barking and crying and waking other people up. I bring him back and forth with me when I'm unloading the car. And I don't unload everything, but I unload my the vitals, the important stuff that I need, the clothes for the next day, toiletries, and any stuff I don't want to get stolen out of my car. So that's a couple of trips. That takes a while. And it's a lot quicker if you have somebody with you. The drive goes faster. You can shoot the shit a little bit. You can listen to podcasts. You can do whatever. Someone's there to help you out. You could get gas while they get food. And then I can walk the dog, and then they can do their business, and it's great. And then they can watch the dog when I do my business. It just makes the trip a lot easier of a 2-day trip. And I'm not complaining in the sense that woe is me. I chose this route, obviously. I'm trying to go home for a few weeks, so I get it. And it's tough to find people who want to go on these trips. A lot of times, I'll ask some people every once in a while if they want to go, and sometimes I feel like they feel bad saying no, so they make up reasons why they can't go. Don't do that. If I ever ask you in the future, it's a throwaway ask. I know you're not going to be able to do it. It's a huge favor to ask of somebody to want to take a 2-day road trip like this. So I completely understand if you just say, nah, that's too much for me. I can't. I'm not gonna. I'm not doing that. Got it. I won't take any offense to it. It's a selfish ask of me. I just want someone to hang out with, and I pay for their food, and obviously the lodging's on me because I always get a room with 2 queen beds, because there's always that off chance someone does, want to go on these road trips with me. So I always keep that option open, and obviously I'm paying for that. I got the gas, I got the food. I just want the company, and the little bit of the 5 minutes to watch Randy while I'm going if I had to do my business. That's all. So it's a completely selfish ask of me. So I don't take it personal. I don't get mad if somebody can't do it or just doesn't want to do it. So you could be honest. If I ask anybody in the future who listens to this, no, there's no offense taken at all if you don't want to do the trip in the future. That being said, driving alone is boring on long trips like this. If it's a 1-day trip, no problem. Whatever, I can take care of that. No problem. It's fine. But trips like these, they start to wear on you. But it's worth it in the end because I get to spend a little bit more time with my family when I am home. I have a little bit more free reign because I have my own vehicle now. I can get some stuff done. I can go to the gym without having to wait for my parents to get home to bum a ride off of them, stuff like that. And it saves me money because I don't have to pay for dog boarding. I don't have to fly home for separate. I have separate family events that I am going to over the course of the next 2.5 or 3 weeks. And that's ridiculous to fly there and back each time. That's plane tickets, that's Ubers to the house, that's long-term parking for my car in Texas, and that's dog boarding. On 2 to 3 separate occasions in the same month. Doesn't make sense to me. I'd rather tough out these trips and cry about it here on video or on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this. So that's where we're at right now. Like I said, I don't know where I am. I think the traffic sort of broke up a little bit right now, which is good. Thankfully, there's no bad weather. Yesterday, I hit a little bit of bad weather with some rain, and it slowed things down a little bit. But here we are. I'm tired. This is a good point in the trip to start recording this, because I can talk to you guys, and hopefully the mic is not getting jacked up when I'm moving. I have it on my seatbelt because it's a better position, but I'm moving around and the mic might be moving around, and hopefully it's not making too much extra noise for you guys. If not, I'll try to edit it in post, but I don't think it's going to work out that way, so I apologize in advance if it's bad audio. But I woke up early today. I woke up early yesterday too to get on the road early, and I did, earlier than I normally do. Normally I don't end up leaving until like closer to noon, mainly because I procrastinate on packing and prepping, and then I do it the morning of. This time I did not. I did it the night before. I was ready to rock and roll, but it still takes a little bit of extra time to do everything myself, you know. And the same this morning. I woke up early from the hotel, but I had to take a couple of trips from the room to the car, and then I had to check out. I had to make sure I got my dumpies in. And I know a lot of people don't like to talk about that stuff, but you're on a road trip. You gotta... I accidentally hit the wrong button on my phone when I was adjusting the camera angle, and it stopped the recording. We're back. I even have technical difficulties on the road. No matter where I go, I always find a way to find the technical difficulties, and that's just the LPDS, folks. So anyway, you gotta stick to your dumpy schedule. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, and it's a family show, whatever. Sorry, T. Sorry, everybody else out there, but that's a reality of road trips. And that's another reason why I'm sure people don't want to go on these with me, because it's going to jack that up for a lot of people. And it delays my trip sometimes too. Or it puts me in precarious situations where I have to go and I need to find a gas station or a rest stop or something. And guess what? Those aren't guaranteed winners, folks. Sometimes you find a place that's so disgusting, you'd rather go out in the woods and risk getting bit by an animal. So I try to get it done in the hotel, and that takes a little extra time to coax that out. Got to do some calisthenics, some jumping jacks to get things moving and shaking. And then I got on the road today. So I still got out on the road early, but it's still a 12 to 14 hour trip, which I don't think some people understand or care, but they just think, oh, you should be knocking this out. It says 11 hours on the GPS. It should be 11 hours. Yeah, I wish that was the case. I wish I had 11 hours worth of gas in this vehicle. I don't think any vehicle does. So I would love to get this done in an 11-hour shot. That's basically, that's not even a full shift when I was deployed at war. That was at least a 12-hour shift. Most of the times when I was in Afghanistan, it was a 16-hour shift. And when I say shift, I meant we were always working. It wasn't a shift. You just worked, you hit the gym, you went to sleep. Rinse, repeat. That's war. You fight, you work out to get better for fighting, you try to get some sleep, and then you fight some more. This trip should be easier than that, but for whatever reason, mentally it's not. It's just a long drive to nowhere. And I can't even play hotline calls for people because I don't have the extra, I'm not on my computer, so I can't pop up the voicemails to play hotline calls without jacking things up on the phone here. So I got a couple of hotline calls. I haven't listened to them yet. They will be played at a future date, probably in a few weeks from now. So whoever called in, I apologize in advance for that. But I got your calls. I'll listen to them. I'm sure they're fantastic, whatever they may be. So thank you for those calls. Keep them coming, though. 202-670-1114. That's the hotline number. Call in with your questions, your comments, your concerns. We are going to, for the next road trip episode, which will be in a few weeks from now, I will have the questions. If you ask them, I will have them ready and in my memory, so I can rattle them off. Maybe I'll write them on a Post-it and put it, in front of the camera here, so I can look at them real quick and know what questions you guys are asking. But if you're hearing this now, send me your questions. You can DM them to me. You can text me them. You can call me on the hotline. You can put them on comments of a post on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. If you have any questions, if you have any topics you want me to discuss while on the road, if you have anything at all, send it my way so that these road trip episodes will be a lot more interesting for you guys. Right now, it's just me yapping it up, and it probably won't be too long of an episode, to be honest, because there's not a lot going on current events-wise. We got a bunch of politics stuff, and I don't want to really talk about that. I do want to know where the president is right now. I haven't seen the guy in over a month, I think. He when he dropped out, he had that Oval Office discussion speech, I guess you can call it, about dropping out and doing it for the sake of democracy, whatever. And that was it. Gone, disappeared. Somebody supposedly took a picture of the back of him when he was at his beach house in Delaware on vacation. That could have been him. It could have been anybody. It could have been any guy with gray hair on the beach. We don't know. So I think it's just a little weird that we have a president who's currently in office, and we haven't seen or heard from him, and nobody's talked about him or cared to talk about him in a month. When has that happened? When is the last time that has happened in our lifetimes? In my lifetime, anyway. From Bush 1 to Clinton to Bush 2 to Obama to Emperor Trump, you never go a month without talking about or hearing from the president. That's crazy. So I hope he's okay. And then you got the only other politics stuff going on is the race for president between Emperor Trump and Kamala, however you pronounce her name. And that's been boring. It's been a bunch of, we'll call it fake news from both ends, a bunch of manipulation of technology, a bunch of lies, and a bunch of deceit, and that's all we're getting right now. It's a clown show. That's what we're getting for this race, is a clown show. We're supposed to be getting a debate September 10th. By the time this airs, this episode posts, the debate should be underway or done. So we'll see how that goes. It's supposed to be like no earpieces, no notes. It's supposed to be off the cuff. You just get the questions and they're answering the questions. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's going to go well for either of them, because the emperor, he's a shit talker, so he's going to do a lot of shit talking, and Kamala can't talk off the cuff. She doesn't know how to do it. She needs a script. She's very good at the script work. She's very coachable. She gives good performances when she goes on script. It's the same script for every speech. They should probably change things up a little bit, but otherwise she's good on script. Off script, she's a disaster. So I don't know how it's going to go between the shit talking and not answering questions from the orange man to not knowing how to talk off script, which is supposed to be a normal human thing. It's called conversation. You ask a question, they answer it. I don't think it's going to be normal by either sides. So it'll probably make for good comedy. If there are any good, funny jokes that come out of it, we'll talk about it here. Otherwise, I'm not looking forward to it. And I don't think many other people are either. So that's it with politics. And I was listening to a Joe Rogan episode with Mike Baker. He's a prior CIA officer. I like Mike Baker, and I like when he's on that show, and he has his own show. I think it's called The President's Daily Brief. That show is as close to objective news as you're going to get. and that's not a biased opinion. Him and his team just report what's going on around the world. They give both sides of the story, and that's it. They don't give their opinion. They don't chastise anybody if they disagree with them. They don't say one person's bad, one person's good, or whatever situation they're talking about, whatever topic it is. They just report the facts they know, and that's it. And it's actually pretty good. So I suggest you guys check it out. I believe it's on YouTube as well, and on your podcasts, how you doings, iTunes, Spotify's, and what have you. It's President's Daily Brief. It's called PDB. So if you're looking for objective facts on things going on in the world, in this country, that's probably your best bet right now between him and the Breaking Points show on YouTube. That's as close as you're going to get to objective journalism and just reporting information and leaving it up to you as the individual to formulate your own opinion or do further research as necessary. Now, these shows catch a lot of heat from both sides because, of course, there's only two sides, naturally, because they don't go after one side or the other. So when they're reporting these news pieces, depending on what it is, they're getting hate from both sides because they're not taking a stance. Because that's what people have become used to these days with news is you have to take a stance. What's your opinion? You have to have a side. And personally, I disagree with that. I don't think you need to have it. When you're reporting the news, you should not verbalize your side, no matter what you feel about it. Walter Cronkite, the best to ever do it. The guy, I don't think I've ever seen any of his historical archival footage of him giving his own personal opinion on a news matter. So I'd like to get back to that, and these guys are doing it. They're the only ones right now, really. So if you want objective news, the most objective you could possibly get in the quick news style, hits, President's Daily Brief, Breaking Points. Anyway, Mike Baker was on Rogan. He was talking about politics and stuff. Every time he comes on, they talk about stuff going on in the world, political stuff, and it just gets me angry and depressed to see the direction that we're going in this country. And I'm going to end it at that because I don't want to talk about that stuff anymore because it is sad and depressing. And this show is not supposed to be sad and depressing. We're trying to find some lessons and stuff. We're trying to uplift people. We're trying to remind everybody that not all is bad in this world, and you don't have to think that way constantly into the negative, and we can find some positives and stuff like that. And right now it's difficult on the political side for me to find positives, so I'm just going to omit myself from the situation. I'm going to try to follow the big three here and omit myself after I just went on that rant. So talk about irony. Anyway, we'll just move right along and get into the good stuff. We'll step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right. Today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by nobody because I'm on the road. I already told you guys this. We're not doing sponsors on the road. I'm not reading through a sponsor read on the road because it's dangerous and stupid, and my brain is fried. I can't negotiate with these sponsors while I'm on the road and my brain is fried like this. I will end up with a bad sponsor. And there's one thing I don't want on this show ever, and we have 100% success rate so far on this, it's not having a bad sponsor. And we're gonna stick to that plan. All good sponsors, all quality products, all the time. All right, the cage fact. It's more of an update, and it also flies directly in the face of what I just said about trying to maintain positivity on this show. A pseudo-upsetting update to the writing of the sequel of Face Off, Face Off 2, the sequel. If you remember from many, many moons ago, we discussed on this segment that they will be having a Face Off 2, a sequel, and they will be looking to get Travolta and Cage in the mix again. And that's the plan going into the movie. It's still the plan going into the movie, that the movie is built around them again, and it's a sequel of sorts involving Nic Cage's kid, Castor Troy's kid, Nic Cage's character's kid, not his kid in real life, and some other whatever plot it's going to be. But an article recently came out stating that the script has been delayed and shelved right now because the writer's strike that went on several months ago, the SAG-AFTRA or whatever it's called, writer's strike that happened for a while. It was a couple months long. That put a halt to all writing for everything and then delayed everything else. So the writers of the Face Off sequel got delayed on another project they were working on, so they have to focus on that project to get that back up and running, and then they'll go back to the Face Off 2 script. So it's going to be a while before the script gets completed, because it's not even a full draft yet. Gets completed, approved, picked up by a production company, casted, filmed, edited, and put out there. So it's going to be a while for that. A little disheartening, a little disappointing to hear, but they did assure us that they didn't take the script and put it with the Ark of the Covenant in that warehouse full of stuff where things go to die, where the top men analyze that stuff. That's not the case here. Supposedly, they're going to get back on it. Just because of the writer's strike, it delayed everything, and so it's going to be a little bit longer. Now, I got a little angry at that only because the writer's strike was a union strike. It's the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and all that crap, the writers, whatever. It's basically a union. It might actually officially be a union. So when one person is unhappy, they all got to be unhappy, sort of situation. So they went on strike. Everything stopped. Now, were they getting dicked over on royalties and payments from streaming services? Probably. So there was definitely some good that probably came out of this, so that they can get their due. Writers write the good shows. The good shows that we enjoy, they came from writers' brains. So you want to keep them happy. You want to keep the good ones happy, so that they're continuing to write good stuff, so that we can be entertained for years to come. Got it. But there's got to be a better way to do this. Not everybody was pissed off at the situation that was going on with the writers and the production companies and the streaming services. Why can't they continue writing their own individual shows and movies and whatever, and let the people who were dissatisfied go on strike? I know it's not as simple as that, because that's the way the unions work, and they're protecting everybody. The intent is to protect everybody, but it puts those other people in a bad position too, because they want to work, and now they're not allowed to work because they're on strike, and if they go back to work, they're going to be ostracized from the community as scabs. That's how it works. That's how shit goes in the union world. Some unions are even a bigger joke. They're not even allowed to go on strike. The rules have been created, the policies have been created in such a way that the union is basically useless. You just pay your dues to get fake represented, and nothing good actually comes of it, because your union leaders are on the take with whoever they're working with. And then you can't even go on strike if you're actually being abused and disrespected, because the policies don't allow it. If you go on strike, you get canned, you get replaced. So there needs to be some union reform to address the nuance of certain situations like this. That's all I'm saying about it. I am happy that they still came out pretty strongly and confidently that the script's going to get written, and that Nic Cage is supposed to be in this movie, Face Off 2. And that's all I care about. That's all I care. I just want John Travolta and Nic Cage in another Face Off movie. It's one of the wildest movies that ever came about, with two of the the wildest actors out there. I want more of that. So, yeah, that's the Cage fact. We'll move on over to the Junction. We'll spin the logo up. I don't really have much to say, folks. On this road trip, it's very boring. There's not even a lot of good scenery. I'm finally in an area where there's some scenery. I think I just passed the Blue Ridge Mountains, so that was nice. But I've been in a brain fog, not much sleep, not a safe situation. So I'm sure I'm going to get shit for that from somebody, which is fine. But I did see this one thing, though, now that I'm thinking about it. And I'm going to butcher this because I don't exactly remember. It was a video on Instagram. This guy, if I remember his name, I'll pop his name up here. But I'm not going to remember to go back and find his name, so don't expect to see his name on YouTube land. But he has his Instagram page where he talks through the reasons for things that go on in this world and society, culturally, societally, trending-wise, what have you, and he identifies sort of the history of it and why maybe it's normal, why maybe it's abnormal, things like that. So, for instance, he talks about like how slang terms come around, the history of certain slang terms, and how languages have evolved and stuff like that, accents, things like that. So it's pretty interesting stuff. And one of the videos that he posted had to do with AI. And the video was talking about how, and again, I'm going to butcher this, so if I can find the video and I'm able to clip it and link it here. If not, I'll put it in the description of this video on YouTube and on iTunes and Spotify. I'll put a link to the Instagram reel where he talks about this with AI, so you can see it yourself. But he was talking about how if you run a question through AI, and the example he used was, come up with a random sequence of numbers or whatever it was, and it pops up this random sequence of numbers, twos, all real numbers, 2s, 3s, 6, all, the image was like a grid of numbers. He was saying how the way the algorithm and most AI right now works is if you take that image that it spits out, so for this example, the numbers, and you run it again through the same question, like, hey, do this again with this output you already, let's refine it, and you keep doing that over and over again with the outputs, you keep running it through, because it's going through the same algorithm and it's only looking at the same information because it's the same question, the AI actually spits out worse and worse quality outputs as you continue to go along, to the point where he showed his final image and it was blurred numbers. It was nonsense. It wasn't even real numbers. It was symbols and nonsense. And he was suggesting that AI, they need to update the algorithm or add different algorithms to account for this, or it could potentially happen with other things. So I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about AI and how advanced it's getting, and how, very soon it's going to be so advanced it's going to be able to take jobs and this and that away from people. And made me think, if they don't update the algorithm like this guy says they should, or add more nuance to the algorithm, what if AI, instead of refines products and continues to chop away and make them better and better and better, it keeps running through the same algorithm and makes it worse? Because it's only going off of a certain piece of information, whatever the algorithm tells it to, based on your question. So if you ask, show me a red square, and then it pops out a red square, and then you pop it through again, it's only going to look through the same information. That was a stupid example, by the way. Over and over again on how to refine it. Again, I'm probably butchering this. There's probably a lot more comprehension that needs to be had on my part to be able to understand this better. But my question was, to me, to myself really, was if they do this with like, medical technology or scientific stuff, and they're asking it to, treat, like, hey, here's the symptoms for this person's having, this patient's having, and it pops out potential, problems. This could be, this issue or that issue. And then you try to go to refine it even further. Is it going to actually refine it, or is it going to make it worse to the point where you're now misdiagnosing somebody based off of that AI dependence, if we get to that point? So it was just an interesting sort of exercise in critical thinking, if you will, and something, something to consider when we're talking about AI. If we as humans, not me specifically, but the people creating these AI programs and these algorithms, if they get lazy after the first go and depend on AI to fix itself and update itself, is it going to actually do the opposite and make itself worse? And then we're going to rely on what we think is more refined AI support. It's actually worse. It's actually less refined. I don't know. It was a question, I thought it was a good question. Again, it could be a good question to me because I don't understand the nuance behind it. It's tough to comprehend because I'm not that smart on artificial intelligence technologies and algorithms and stuff like that. But it was definitely a thinker for me, maybe something for you guys to think about. I heard somebody talking about how students are getting busted because, when you think about it in school, how many adults are in college? Most of them, young adults. There's kids in there like 20, 21, 22-year-olds. And there's not a whole lot of adults going back to college, like in their 30s and stuff. So we're talking about kids here, but a lot of kids have been getting busted using AI to write essays. And when I say write essays, I mean they're putting in the question like, write an essay about Abe Lincoln, and then whatever AI spits out, they're handing in. They're not even adding their own little spin on it to make it look like their own writing. They're just handing it in. And teachers now, everybody has the ability to do this, but teachers now have, there are programs out there, just like they have for plagiarism programs. They have these programs that you can scan essays to see what percentage was AI generated and how much of it was authentic. They could do it for videos too, and they could do it for pictures and a whole bunch of other stuff. They've been doing it a lot for a lot of politically related stuff with the campaign race, because both sides are putting out fake stuff, fake sound bites, fake videos, fake news headlines that were AI generated, and they're scanning it and seeing like, this is a lie. This is all fake. This is not a real news headline. Here's the actual headline or whatever it is. So everybody has access to this, and teachers are using it to check and bust these kids up. And that sort of sparked my interest, plus this video on Instagram on these, like, students weren't. When I was a kid in high school, I'm not thinking that far ahead. I'm not thinking second, third order effects here. I'm not looking ahead of like, oh, what if AI puts out a garbage product? Like, most of the time, if you're doing any sort of cheating or anything like that, copying or whatever, you're just copying and sending it up. That's it. You're not reviewing it. You're not taking the time to personalize it and make it look real. Most people aren't. Some people were doing that, but most people weren't doing that. So with this AI, if it doesn't refine your product and it's shit, how many more students are going to get busted? And additional question for people to think about, and myself included, these scanning programs running off of similar algorithms? Are they using AI to scan to see what's AI generated? Are they using AI against AI, and are those programs going to be degraded because of the algorithm limitations? So are they going to be able, like, what is going to happen if they don't address this issue when they're advancing AI and they're just resting on their laurels that their first algorithm was a pretty good one? Because it is pretty good. You could do some really cool stuff with ChatGPT and the other programs out there. And it makes things a lot easier for people. It can streamline a lot of stuff. It helps me with Spearhead. I don't rely on AI to do everything, but when I want to find some good leadership quotes or leadership facts or traits or principles, I can look up some information on ChatGPT and ask it to list it out for me and put it in a spreadsheet format, and it does. And I can use that now as a reference. So if I get a leadership quote from a person, usually and you could put it in ChatGPT. I want the quote, I want who said the quote, and I want to know the context where they said it. Was it in a book? Was it in a speech? Whatever. So you get the context, and now I can go back to that book and read that book. Maybe it's a full leadership book. Maybe it's a speech about leadership. Maybe it was a training seminar that somebody gave that I can learn about. So it's definitely helpful and beneficial in a lot of ways, but I'm the end user. I'm the jabroni that they try to idiot-proof things for so that we can keep using these products. I don't know if it's actually putting out good stuff all the time. There's still a level of effort on my part if I want to verify that this is good enough information. So at a certain point, we're going to become so dependent on it that we're just going to trust it, because in the beginning, it's going to put out enough verifiable information that you're going to build that rapport with the program. It sounds crazy, but you're going to build a rapport and you're just going to be like, okay, it's always been right for me so far, so it's going to be right for me again, and eventually it's not going to be right for you. It's going to start spitting out crap and incorrect information and misleading information or whatever, and you're not going to go do your due diligence and check in, and it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. And that's what I'm worried about. And I don't know exactly how to combat that other than doing other internet searches to verify the information it's putting out when I ask it questions. So those are the pontifications of a madman driving for 24 hours in the middle of nowhere with nobody else to talk to but a sleeping dog. He's asleep. His eyes are shut. He's asleep back there. He doesn't give a shit about what I'm talking about. And now I just ranted for 15, 20 minutes about something I know very little about. Very little about. And I hope I didn't put you to sleep, because I was putting myself to sleep thinking about it. And it's probably because my brain is fried a little bit. I've been on the road for a long time. My brain is not equipped for this. It's not. My mental fitness is not marathon ready for this. I need to prepare ahead of time better for stuff like this. And also, when you're on the road, your senses are heightened to begin with. It's not like I'm in autopilot. It's not like you're on a plane or even a bus or a train or an Uber where you don't have to worry. You don't have to pay attention when you're in an airplane. You're not the pilot. You trust the pilot to get you where you need to be safely. And you can go to sleep, you can watch a movie, you can read a book, you can talk to your neighbor, you can do whatever you want. Here, I have to be locked in. So my brain is already firing on all cylinders to look at the guy in front of me, to look at the guys to the side of me, to make sure there's no animals coming out, to make sure Randy doesn't block my visibility for some reason. Always got to be ready and looking and checking your gauges and be on the lookout. So I'm already operating at a 6 or a 7, where normally if I was home watching TV or reading a book, or doing whatever I'm doing at home, I'm operating at a 2, 3, 4 level. So because I'm operating at a higher throttle, higher level, my brain gets tired quicker. My brain gets fried a little bit faster. And I start to get brain fog. And then I start talking about AI like I know what the hell I'm talking about. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. And I'm not trying to be self-deprecating here. I don't know what I'm talking about very well with AI at all. Most people don't. But it was an interesting subject, an interesting question posed by this fella. I'll try to find the link. Maybe you're going to watch that video and you're going to be like, oh, Libretti did not explain as well at all. Or maybe you look at it and you'll be like, oh, yeah, I actually got a good synopsis from this rambling lunatic. And if that's the case, then you're welcome, I guess. I'm glad I could be of service. So that's all I got to say, folks. Quick episode. Before we go, the big three, the 3 pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, healthier, more genuine human being and spreading that positivity and goodness to all those around you and throughout the land. Number 1, exercise every day. Do whatever you got to do to get a physical, mental, or emotional workout in to improve your physical, mental, or emotional fitness and health and wellness. Number 2, the hardest one to do, don't be a shitty person, be a kind person. When the opportunity arises to be shitty to somebody, to be negative, when your negative emotions kick in a particular situation, instead of letting those emotions get the best of you and you reacting to those emotions, take the LPDS step back, detach yourself from those negative emotions, and just omit yourself from the situation. There have been several occasions now where I very much would have liked to have cut somebody off or administered the pit maneuver on a vehicle who was not paying attention and being clueless and dangerous on the road and really pissing me off. And instead of doing that, I could have easily done it. I got a nice sized truck. I could have easily pit maneuvered any one of these jabronis, and they would have been out of the fight, and the convoy would have rolled on, no problem. But I took a deep breath. I had to take a big LPDS step back several times to remove myself from the situation. It's tough to do when you're in the car because, again, your senses are already heightened. You're already operating on the edge. And then somebody does something stupid, dumb, and dangerous, clueless, and you just want to go full throttle on them. And then after the fact, even if you do take the LPDS step back and cool off and don't engage, you still have to maintain that high frequency because you're still on the road. Your senses still have to be up. So you're still operating high and you're still teetering on the edge of absolute breakdown. So it's a precarious situation for sure, folks. So that's why it's the hardest thing to do, number 2. Number 3, the most important one, though, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. Think about one thing each day. Think about one thing in your life that's good and what your life would be like without that thing. And that'll immediately put you in a state of gratitude. The fact that I have a working vehicle, a functioning vehicle, I'm able to drive, I have the mental cognition to be safe on my end. I'm grateful for that. There are plenty of people, even in this country, I've heard many people talk about how they don't even have driver's license. They're adults. They live in New York City. They live in Chicago, whatever. They don't even know how to drive. So they can't do road trips like this to go see their family. They can't, they have to rely on somebody else. And that might seem like a small thing because I have the ability to drive. It sounds like, oh, well, whatever, go get a ride somewhere. But it's not that easy. So you start to appreciate that more when you think about stuff like that. So you do that. You couple that with not being a shitty person. You couple that with exercising every day. And I promise you'll be a better, happier, kinder, healthier, more genuine human being. And you'll be able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you and throughout the land. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the hotline 202-670-1114. Tell your friends and enemies to also call the hotline. Bring me your questions for the next road trip episode in a couple weeks here. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be of a better state of mind, and we'll have some questions to answer. We'll have a good time doing it. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.